I'm Reginald, your announcer, and welcome to Best of the Bottom. There's a podcast of nonsense from nobodies. He once swallowed 2 quarters and pooped a nickel, and she smoked so much weed to start a religion they got drunk and forgot what it was. Here's your hosts, Justin and Diane. Hamlet, hit that intro.
It's gonna be terrible.
Hello and welcome to the beginning of the show. We are about to reach into the bag of doom. We have this bag. In this bag, there's various shots of booze. So we'll reach into this bag and we will find our specific shot. And then the show will commence.
Ah! It's me!
The
Bag of Doom hates me. The Bag of Doom hates me.
grape. Oh, both S101 though. So.
I don't give a shit.
You're committed to peach.
You and the Bag of Doom are in cahoots, I swear to God.
I did not see in that bag. Did you see me look in the bag?
No.
Do you see a clear window on there?
Well, you obviously have a sacred bond or something, because I'm getting fucked every single time.
I created the Bag of Doom.
Yes.
So, you know.
I can never open these.
Struggle. Struggle. There it goes.
Power of the right hand, man.
To the discussion of the King of Tigers. Oh.
That's not good. That's not good.
Oh. Not very pleasant.
No.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I hit DJ Heimlich.
Peach is the worst artificial flavor.
It's not that bad. Anyways, and welcome to Best of the Bottom. We are bottom class people drinking bottom shelf booze. I'm Justin.
Dad.
And you can find us here on the Perico Productions channel and watch our show on YouTube. Or you can listen to us on at least current episodes on Podbean and Apple Podcasts. For older episodes, you can find them pretty much wherever podcasts are found. I still have not corrected my issue with the other service that I use. Today, I've gathered you all here to discuss 2 things, as I've mentioned in the last podcast, after we covered WrestleMania 36 in the Firefly Funhouse, and the Boneyard match. I definitely think we went kind of long on that podcast, but you know what? It was interesting. But I'm going to start with Vice's Chris Benoit episode. Vice's does Dark Side of the Ring, which covers all kinds of obviously darker stories involved in professional wrestling, because I am a big old wrestling fan. Big old wrestling nerd. And we'll cover this one first, because I think we'll probably not delve in as deep as we are into Tiger King, because this story is kind of depressing. But
I fought to not watch it. I don't like sad things, and
Yeah.
I did not.
she didn't want to watch it, but it covered a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
Just because Chris Benoit was an amazing wrestler, he was very talented, and by all accounts, he was a super nice guy behind the scenes until that day. Which actually, when this happened, when the whole murder suicide happened, I actually.
Wait, what did you say?
When the incident happened, I actually had taken a break from watching professional wrestling because sometimes you just gotta take a break. Especially when WWE was handling everything. There's been times where things got a little boring, we'll say. But what was interesting is I've heard different sides of the story. There's been lots of accounts.
Mhm.
And there's always been talk about how close Benoit and Eddie Guerrero were. And it was shocking to hear how much Eddie's death affected Benoit. Because, I definitely get it. When you're with somebody way more than you are with your own family and your spouses, you build a tight bond, especially when you're exhausted and the kind of jobs they do, they're on the road like 295 days of the year. Non-stop working, hurt, training, everything else. Not to mention, apparently, the drugs and steroids that were used during that time. And the chair shots. There's just so much to unpack from the whole story. But the couple things that I found kind of shocking was one, that Eddie died in Chavo's arms. Chavo is Eddie's nephew.
Yeah.
That was really heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah.
To imagine,
And also kind of interesting hearing Chris Jericho's input on a lot of the things.
I just love the shit out of Chris Jericho.
I know.
He's just a fucking...
I mean, there's just so much to say about Chris Jericho. And then to top it off, at the end of the thing, Chris Benoit's son had not talked to Nancy Benoit's sister since the incident. They hadn't seen each other because I guess people were kind of saying the Benoit's son didn't want to see them and they didn't want to see her. And then Chris Jericho, during this whole thing, got them together and said, hey, you guys need each other. You're the only ones that know what you went through, because I feel bad for David Benoit because he wants to be a professional wrestler, but it's I don't know how he. It's just the optics of people. He's just this innocent kid that's suffering from the atrocities his dad did.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine that either. Just fucking all of a sudden your family's gone.
Yeah.
And you're the only one left. And it's just that has got to be
I know. Everything's happy, hunky-dory, and fine. And all of a sudden you get a phone call. And and then just the mixed feelings that you have.
Yeah.
Just knowing your own father is responsible for these things. It was...
Did we gloss over what exactly happened? Or
kind of we did.
I feel like we just jumped in and just went, oh my goodness, this.
I know. It's just so... Okay. For those of you that don't know anything about professional wrestling or the story, Chris Benoit was a professional wrestler who had been in the business since I think 89. Gone through all the territories, wrestled for WCW, came over to WWE, then WWF. Was best friends with Eddie Guerrero, who was also a wrestler that had gotten into the business probably around the same time. They wrestled each other a lot in Japan. Grew to be close. They rose up the ranks. They both won, world championships in WWE. And then Eddie died of a heart attack from all his previous drug use and I think probably just a strain on his body from all the stuff he's gone through. Eventually, that caused Eddie to die. Chris Benoit was really close to him. Also, did a lot of chair shots, did a lot of diving headbutts, reportedly lots of steroids, drugs, a lot of things that happened in the 80s, 90s. Professional wrestling has a wrestling just has a sketchy past. It just does. I mean, it started as a whole thing from carnivals trying to trick people out of money. Wrestling is an interesting world. But in time, I think it was 2007, suddenly Chris Benoit was supposed to show up to a pay-per-view, but he never showed up. WWE officials or WWF official at the time called the police, sent him over to the Benoit household, discovered Chris Benoit, Nancy Benoit, and their son were all dead, and it came out to be a murder-suicide. Apparently, something caused Chris Benoit to snap, and that's kind of the whole talk about in the Vice thing. Is there's just so many things that led to this, and it's just hard to fully understand everything that went on in that guy's mind that led to it. The injuries, the drugs, the head injuries, the concussions, and then just the sheer grief led him to kill his wife, his son, and then himself.
Because it's definitely like a case of CTE.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of CTE involved, and it just seemed like, and that was thoroughly discussed. A lot of Vice really kind of dove in deep with all the people close to him, and there was just so much that went into the story. And I know at one point people were trying to say it was a murder, and it had something to do with I forgot the guy's name. The guy that was originally married to Nancy Benoit. I can't think of his first name. Sullivan. What a wrestling nerd I am. I forgot the guy's name. Anyways, there was people speculating that he was involved. That clearly wasn't the issue. Unfortunately, Benoit snapped and killed his family and then himself. And there was a lot of warning signs leading up to it, but people didn't realize it, I think, at the time. The paranoia, the just sheer horrible, unadulterated grief from the loss of his closest friend. And
well, I think that's what everybody chucked his odd behavior up to, was just, oh, he's grieving.
Yeah.
And then there was more going on besides that.
Yeah, he slowly distanced himself from some of the other people he was close to. And I guess there was huge fights between Nancy and Chris. There was just so much that went on. And a doctor eventually examined his brain and saw there was a lot of damage from CTE. And also there was concerns, too, with steroid use and not...
Yeah, because that was not too long after I started watching wrestling.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, how I remember it, like, was everybody was saying it was roid rage. Like,
yeah,
that's 100% what it was. And then I think I even said something about it last podcast. I can't remember what I said.
Yeah, you said something. That's what led us to saying at the end of
and then you were like, oh, yeah, you need to watch this. And then I was like, oh, yeah, professional wrestling is still a CT, like, filled world. So, yeah. Whoops, last week. I've been educated and I'm moving on. Yeah. So I just always thought it was a roid rage thing, because that's just what everybody was reporting it as, and like, and then in this documentary they were just like, no, there's a lot of things. Yeah, there was a lot of things going on with that man.
It was just the perfect storm of everything. Like, just the amount of head injuries that guy had, because, back then, even at Chris Jericho, one of the things he had said, that back then in the 90s, it was like a badge of honor to take a chair shot. You just grit your teeth and boom, over the head, unprotected chair shot. Ooh, I can't even imagine how much that hurt.
But then I think, I also didn't realize, this documentary also made me realize too, I didn't realize how brutal the actual murders kind of were.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like kind of a quick thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is they uncovered a lot of details. I was like, oh, that's even worse.
I was just like, oh, like I didn't know he broke her back and all that, and just like,
yeah.
I thought he just like shot everybody and then like hung himself. Like I thought it was like a relatively like, not that it makes it better, but it's just like I thought it was just like he was just done.
Well, I guess his son supposedly drugged him and suffocated him, which is.
I don't know if that's better. I mean, I don't know if he knew what was going on. I don't know.
It's still awful.
Yeah.
But I guess it's better than breaking your back and then being strangled, and I didn't want to get.
I didn't know all the details, so it's just like, yeah, that was interesting too, because I just always thought it was like a kind of quick and painless thing. At least that's what I imagined. I was like really young, so I don't know. That I would have really got all the details, but like I just knew that he had killed them, and that was basically it. I just imagined like quickest possible way, because I still imagined he loved his family, like, and wouldn't. I don't know. I was just like, I just imagined, yeah, he killed them, but like he wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah,
like I don't know. So that was there, but also I don't know. It's just a sad story, because it's like. I don't think that man would have done that if he didn't have such like damage to his brain. It sounded like he was a really nice dude.
Yeah, everything that happened definitely changed him to the point. And I mean, one of the things that definitely made a highlight of is really the CTE stuff. Not just in football, like all sports in general. Really, Chris Benoit was one of the first ones that really started pointing a finger at, hey, man, at one point we used to be all concerned that concussions was a big deal, and we said, oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. And now we're realizing, no, they are a big deal, because not just the potential from injury right there, but just the long-term effects that it can cause with the CTE.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember everything. I know I was going to, like, go back and watch, and I was like, he was a nice dude, right? It just, like, things went...
Yeah, one of the big things that everybody talked about is how kind and caring he was towards everybody. Like...
But he did have, like, a side, though, right?
Yeah, he did have, like most professional wrestlers.
Because now I'm like, I feel like I'm remembering stuff, and I was like... It was crazy too, because like I do vaguely remember watching the Chris Benoit thing, and they brought up in the thing too how William Regal was just like something he said, like he didn't necessarily like, because everybody was like, oh yeah, my god,
he said, because William Regal lived in the same neighborhood that he did, and he knew the marital issues that were going on prior to this, and William Regal had just said something to the effect of he was a true professional in the ring and yada yada yada. So he was kind of suspicious of what really happened.
Because stuff was going on before it.
Yeah, like after.
But then it's like, I don't know. It's like, I mean, he had CTE. Like, it's hard because it's just like he still fucking did it.
Yeah, it's not making an excuse for him. Because one of the things is like right before he did it, he reached out to the one doctor he was a professional wrestler, became a neurologist, and one of the things that inspired this wrestler to become a neurologist is all the concussions he had sustained. He was concerned about his own health and ended up becoming a doctor, and that's when Chris Benoit called him and said, hey, how many concussions did you have before you retired? And the guy said, I don't know, 7, 8, whatever it was, before he decided he should retire. And then he asked Chris Benoit how many did he have, and he says, I lost count a long time ago, or something to that effect. And I don't know, man. I mean, I guess...
I think it really humanizes him, I think. And it really... in my head, like, put. I don't know, because again, like, I never trust documentaries because there's always an agenda, but at the same time, like, with the information they put forward, I'm just
that's kind of what I like about the Vice series is they're not really tied to any side, so they just get people and they all tell their story. Like, I don't know if you should watch some of the other episodes too that they have. They're pretty interesting.
I think the people they pulled for the documentary is also what gives it so much. I mean, it's only 2 episodes. I don't know how long each one is.
They're about 45 minutes.
But, like, the people they chose to pull for it also, like, puts legitimacy to the documentary, because they're all people who were
they're all
tightly connected. It's not like one of those documentaries where it's like, oh, yeah, I was, like...
Yeah, they like the only guy that wasn't necessarily close to him was the guy that did all the research and wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
But he
interviewed contact.
Yeah, but it was like Chris Jericho, Vicky Guerrero.
I'm like, you're trying too hard.
I know.
Just say Guerrero like the rest of us.
Guerrero. Vicky was in there, which was Eddie's wife, and then you had David Benoit, Chris Benoit's son. Jim Ross was in there, who was also close to him and worked for WWE and was talent relations at that time. You had Chavo Guerrero. Yeah. And it was pretty much all of his closest circle. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of gave a lot of depth and really talked about a lot of stuff that nobody's ever heard.
Yeah, well, at least I was shocked. It was nice to hear. It was cool. Not cool. None of it's cool. I don't know, but it was like, I seriously thought you farted, and I was like, dude.
Mallard has some allergy issues.
But, yeah. Too, because it does kind of also, it does dip into the whole Eddie Guerrero thing, and I remember that tribute. I remember all of that. Because that was like, I remember being like, oh my God, that's so sad. I really honestly probably hadn't really seen him wrestle very much. Because I was still, I don't know when that happened, but it was like, I was baby-faced into the world of wrestling. So I was just like, oh my God, that's sad. And then Chris Benoit too. And I had like, because a lot of the wrestlers I knew because of this wrestling game my mom got me for Christmas one year. And it was like a DVD thing too, and you got to like, I can't remember what the game was. I don't know if it was like a Seen It type thing. I don't know. You had cards, and you got to pick your wrestlers, and I just knew everybody. And like Chris Benoit was still wrestling at the time when I was watching, but like I had a card of him, I had a card of Eddie, I had a card of like, I don't know if Chavo was in there or not, but Chavo was a big thing at the time too. Yeah. And I loved fucking Chavo, but like. Yeah, so I kind of knew who everybody was. I know a lot of wrestlers, but I don't really know their work or anything like that. And Chris Benoit, I don't know. I just remember liking him, but I don't know where I was going with this. I kept going like, find your train.
The game got you into professional wrestling because...
Well, professional wrestling got me into professional wrestling. Well, the game got me into like, knowing who people are.
The more detailed? Okay.
But I don't know why I got into that in the first place.
Yeah.
It's so sad, okay?
It's a horrible tragedy, but I will say it was amazing to learn that Chris Jericho rejoined his the Benoit family after so many years of not talking.
That's just every time. I feel like every time I learn something about Chris Jericho, I'm like, what a great fucking human. Like, just like, he's great at his fucking job. Like, you love to fucking hate him. Like, he's just...
I was always the pro Jericho. Jericho was amazing.
Yeah. It just is. It's just like one of those things, the more I learn, the more I'm like, I like this guy as a dude, and I think he's great at his job as a wrestler.
Yeah, but I would say out of the positives that came out of it, is one, Jericho reunited a family.
Yeah.
And also, there's been a lot of changes to prevent some of the CTE stuff. No more unprotected chair shots. There's been a lot more research. And it's kind of made professional wrestling a bit safer, as safe as it can be.
Yeah. It's just really sad that
it took that. Yeah.
Well, it's sad that it took that, and it's sad that it's. I know it's nobody wants. It's sad that first of all, Nancy's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
She deserves to be there.
Yeah.
And they'll never put her there because of the whole situation.
They could at least have put her in as a woman, as pointed out.
She deserves to be there, and that's not fair. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. I know you're trying to end it, but I also felt like we should have also mentioned that.
Yes, because I wanted to get to that too. I'm glad you said it, because I wanted to get into the Hall of Fame thing too.
She deserves to be there. And in some part of my head, I'm like, he does too, but it's also like, but he can't.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but she definitely does. And I feel like he does too, but it's also like, because part of me is like, it's his fucking brain. He had a serious injury from doing this, and it makes me feel shitty that he'll never be there, but at the same time, he fucking killed his family, and so I get it. Like, I get it, and I'm willing to accept that. Yeah, but it's just like, for them both to have just this horrible, like, I know it's the be all end all because it's death, but it's like one fucking moment and like everything they ever did, just fucking like that gone. Yeah. Like
nothing. Like
their legacies, because they should have had legacies, and that's what's. Yeah. Because they worked hard and they fucking got there and they did
like this. David Benoit is.
But it's done.
Probably, I don't know if he'll ever be able to wrestle anymore, just because.
He should be able to, and I think people.
It's just gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for him as a distraction. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which you should watch an interview with David Benoit and Chris Van Fleet, which is a whole different thing, which makes you sadder for David Benoit. Because that's just a boy that loved his dad for what he knew his dad to be. Mm-hmm. Ugh, it's heartbreaking. But one of the, I'm going to move on to the most interesting thing about this whole thing is even like a lot of his closest friends had even said during the interview that Chris Benoit probably wouldn't want himself in the Hall of Fame just because of wrestling was his entire life. Like the work ethic that guy had to be the consummate professional he was. Like Chris Jericho shared a story about, he botched just a simple little kick between a match between the two. Chris Jericho ended up completely whiffing it. Benoit decided to go backstage and do 500 squats or something like that to punish himself for not being in the right position. And Chris is like, who's making you do this? He says, I am. I can't make these kind of mistakes to be a true professional. And Jim Ross, Chris Jericho, a lot of them all had said he would not approve of himself going to the Hall of Fame from what they know of him because this act caused so much damage to the wrestling business that there was a time where it nearly killed the business.
It's just rough because I see both sides. Mm-hmm. And I get that, and I feel that he would. When they said that, that's great. But it's also even sadder,
Maybe they can induct Kid Pegasus into the Hall of Fame. When he was with was it All Japan or New Japan? I think it was All Japan is who he used to wrestle with.
I guess, at the end of the day, a Hall of Fame is like diddly poop.
Yeah, true. It ultimately comes down to...
I guess it's just like, I just hope people, get the full story and, also just realize, that was, I don't know.
It was a horrible situation, but I don't know...
Because it does humanize him, but it also does... Just know all the facts, I guess.
Yeah. It was a horrible, horrible situation. But now we should move on to next one, because I know this is going to be very interesting. But as we're speaking about professional wrestling, we'll talk about somebody else who also ran a professional wrestling promotion, which I think it's a fact that Diane didn't know because I discovered it myself. We're going to talk about Tiger King. He ran a independent wrestling promotion called Texoma Wrestling. And he actually was on an NWA National Wrestling Alliance thing in 2016. And also, he's apparently, he actually got a professional wrestling career himself, as well as was taking pictures with Tim Storm and many other professional wrestlers at his little zoo. And I am talking about Tiger King, Joe Exotic, as I spoke about earlier. And actually, there's also the picture, the thing that Undertaker posted with him with tigers was at Doc Antle's Tiger Sanctuary. So, there's a segue for you. Take it as you will.
All right.
So, I'm going to go to my notes on this because there's just... I basically just kind of copied and pasted all the episode lists because just the way they broke down each section. Obviously, episode 1 kind of introduces you to Joe Exotic, Doc Antle, Carol Baskins. We're going to go kind of a deep dive in this because I got opinions. And...
See, I knew you fucking would, though, because this is something you just don't not have opinions about.
There's a lot of layers going on here. But obviously, Joe Exotic, or I don't know, I don't remember what his, Joe Exotic was, I don't know what his real name was. It was, I think at one point it was like Maldonado Passage.
Doesn't matter.
Either way, Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic.
He was running a tiger sanctuary, essentially kind of a private zoo. You got Carol Baskins, who runs Big Cat Rescue. Essentially the same thing, but says things a little differently. And they all kind of proclaim themselves.
Well, how are we going about talking about these people? Because if you have notes on the episodes,
I say we break down each episode because you know.
All right.
So Carol Baskins runs Big Cat Rescue. She's a big proponent, really vocal animal rights activist, and says she rescues all these cats from different places like what Joe Exotic had and private zoos and so on and so forth. And she has her Big Cat Rescue. And then Doc Antle is another person that has his exotic private zoo. And one of the big things is Doc Antle, Joe Exotic do a lot of what is called cub petting. They do on the road. Well, actually, I think Doc Antle did tours.
No, I think he did.
But,
not like Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic showed up at malls. Doc Antle was a little bit more...
Yeah. Well, he did like schools and malls.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff in the name of conservation and animal rights. But also, he kind of created a character for himself as well. He was doing magic. It started off as he just had a private zoo, was trying to do...
He was talking, I think it first started off with, because his brother died, and he was hit by a drunk driver.
Yeah.
So I think he was going around to schools and talking about drinking and driving and shit.
Yes.
But nobody was listening to him, so he decided to
he started bringing the cats.
So his whole thing in the beginning was... that like put him out there was like he was going to schools and stuff and spreading the message of drinking and driving and why that's not cool.
And then he brought the animals with him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't interesting enough. He started doing magic.
Yeah. Well, I think it was magic then. The tigers.
No, it was tigers and the magic. Because the tigers led him to a middle school kid that was fascinated with magic,
which was strange.
And taught him a lot of tricks.
To me, that he was just like, he saw a middle schooler doing magic and was like, hey, I'm going to bring you on to like do this magic thing. Yeah. I'm like, there's adults out there that teach magic. Why are you talking to this like That part to me was weird. Nobody's ever
that
said
part
anything.
was weird.
There's so much things that were weird, but I was like, nobody thinks that's weird that he went to a middle schooler to learn magic to do all this stuff. I was like, I'm assuming he talks to their parents,
that's what I
like,
found that weird too. But at the time, he's being presented as he's educating kids on drunk driving, and
also being weird. I just thought that was odd.
Yeah, but I'm sure at the time when he talked to the parents, it was like, I don't know. It is weird, but I don't know. I don't even know how.
There's a lot. There's
just so much to unpack. So spoilers, if you haven't seen
come on,
you need to watch it. There's just
let me say, because I really wanted to hate this documentary, just how many memes are out there, how much people are talking about it. I'm like, it can't be that good.
But no, there's just.
But it really is. It's interesting.
Everyone involved is just. Each episode is just like, this can't be real. Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and each episode kind of delves into different stories, and this story keeps developing into all kinds of madness, just sheer madness.
It's just because they're in a different world almost.
They really are. They live in their own universe. It just happens to run coinciding with the rest of ours. And then, so you got Joe Exotic, and then you get talking about Carol Baskins, who keeps saying she's an animal rights activist, and she just wants to, get these tigers out of captivity, yada, 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 PETA, and one of her big targets is Joe Exotic, and to some extent Doc Antle, but Carol Baskins and Joe Exotic just, that's kind of the recurring theme. There's some other stuff that comes on, but that's kind of the big story that develops as this goes along. And first thing I noticed about Carol Baskins when they showed her thing, she does the exact same thing, except for she doesn't do cub petting, but she still has people come into her place, see the cat. It's a lot of the same stuff, guided tours.
Well, I'm interested in those because I just feel like you're talking about them, but I'm like, I just want to jump in and say everything I know. But I'm like, if we're going through them step by step, I'm waiting for.
I want to go step by step because there's just so much to unpack. And like I'm watching her side of everything, I'm kind of like, but what I'm seeing is you're doing almost the exact same thing, just slightly different. You're presenting the same thing. She's saying tigers shouldn't be in cages. She has a bunch of tigers in cages. Shouldn't be making money off of these big cats. She's making money off of these big cats. The only difference is she's pretty much trying to legislate her competition out of business is what it that's the opinion that I started developing just from the get-go. Just she seemed to be doing the exact same thing, just putting a different spin on it.
Yeah.
It's not like she was like the San Diego Zoo and does all this other conservation stuff. There's a lot of weirdness there, and it gets even weirder as we go. Then Doc Antle gets introduced, and he was kind of the OG, I guess, that inspired Joe Exotic. And he's got elephants and tigers, and I think Doc Antle's the one that sold him some of the tigers originally that got Joe Exotic started, from what I remember. Because I watched the first episode, with her, and then I watched all the rest of the episodes mere hours ago.
Yeah, so you're definitely fresher than I am.
Yes. So basically, the first episode was just kind of introducing, giving everybody their little backstories, how they got started. I don't remember as much about Doc Antle just because he kind of weaves in and out.
He's like a main player in the whole business thing, but in the story, not really.
Yeah, he kind of was the inspiration, essentially.
Yeah. And just one of the other major players in the tiger business in America.
Yes.
So.
I think he's the only one now. Wait, I don't know.
They said they rated his thing in 2019, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what. We'll have to do some research to follow that up. Or maybe we'll talk about it in the next documentary. So I guess it's supposed to be another one. But so he kind of inspired everything. As far as Joe Exotic goes, and you got Carol for her own different reasons. And then the next episode gets more into the way they run their businesses. And Joe Exotic and Doc Antle is very similar and very cultish.
Well, yeah, because like they're
Tiger Sanctuary and Sex Cult apparently run very close, similar ties.
Yeah, well,
like Doc Antle has numerous wives or girlfriends, or like majority of the women that work for him are also involved in a relationship.
Yeah. But and it wouldn't be weird, but the way he talks about it is because I'm like all for it, dude. Hey, you want to have all the girlfriends in the world? Fucking do that, cool. But don't say you're bringing him in to like work with these tigers at a really young age, and then they end up just staying there, becoming your girlfriend.
Yeah, they're pretty much all
presenting
18,
it very weird, sir. Like
18, 19. Maybe in their 20s. They're all pretty young girls.
Yeah, and he even says it. He's just like, they come here young, and then they end up just staying here. And like,
because it's magical.
And it's just like, the way he says it is like, I'm grooming these women. Mm-hmm. Like, I give them jobs. They get to work with tigers, animals they would never see out here in like real life up close, and then you know what? Eventually they just grow to love me, and you know what? Boom, we're all
things
banging.
Happen. Oops.
Excuse me.
Spilled it. Yeah, and then Joe Exotic kind of the same thing, but just with dudes. Once again, young dudes brings them in. Well, for the most part, he kind of had just the two husbands. Which turns into a whole other thing later on too.
Well, like, okay? Like, we're going through episode by episode, but I also don't remember what happened in episode by episode.
That's why I'm kind of giving the breakdown. Like, this episode mostly focused on the people that work there, their personalities, how they really kind of bring everything. Most of the people.
I'm not quite sure what I can talk about that falls into that category because I don't.
Yeah, because in this episode talked a lot about, particularly more Doc Antle and Joe Exotic spend a lot of time talking about them and their girlfriends, boyfriends.
I don't know if it's this episode, but is it the like two where they show him like picking out like where they're he's talking about. The guy, I don't know who he's talking to, if it's the director or whoever, and he's showing him videos of stuff that he's done, and he's like, oh, we need to talk about this, and he like stops it and he starts talking about, and this is when, and he starts like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Because Doc Antle the whole time is trying to direct the documentary himself almost.
Oh yeah, in
when it had to do with him.
Yeah.
And so he was very.
No, that was the first episode where they're talking about how he kept trying to direct the episode. Like he was sitting there going, like in the beginning, Doc Antle was like, "Here, I'm going to stand here and you're going to talk to me, and I'm going to do this and this, and then we'll do an introduction and nah."
Very controlling about how he came off, and it came off so dorky.
Yeah, and that was the first.
Because here's this man. Okay, since we've already talked about it, here's this man who's apparently just like fucking rolling in poon because of these tigers. Like, and
we don't know if he's rolling in poon yet.
He's like, I mean, knowing all you know from the documentary.
Yeah.
And plus, we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
He he's here trying to direct how he looks, but we're seeing it, and it's so dorky and so just like, oh my god, what is this?
Where he shows up on his elephant
and he's just trying so hard. He's trying so hard, and it's just like, I'm like, oh my god! And the fact they threw that in there, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, that's like the best part of him is just watching him, just like. He thinks he's going to control this. He thinks he's coming.
I just know something else too. When I looked up some of the stuff on Wikipedia, so I could kind of guide the episodes and figure it out, I noticed that it has it listed as an animated series. Because all these people are fucking cartoons. I didn't even know. I was like, oh, animated series? So I was like, oh, are we talking about the same one? And I looked it up. I was like, oh, yeah, the same one. Why say animated series? Because these are real life cartoon characters. And not the kind that you want your kids to watch. But
unless you're using it as like a, hey, maybe not.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the first few episodes, it's kind of shows a lightheartedness, and then it kind of develops. Like it does really start to show how much Joe Exotic can't stand Carol Baskins, and just he dedicated. I don't know, hours upon hours of his own TV show. Because let's talk about he had his own little TV show. Yeah. Then later got a producer involved who was supposed to make a reality show based on him. Which I think is kind of how all this lined up into this documentary. And that even there's even more that goes into that too. Oh my, it just, as I watched this thing, I just kept going, huh. Really?
Just because it's the beginning is just basically you're meeting these three people. They're basically the tiger.
These are the
American tiger people. There's a fourth person who's in there too that I'm not quite sure.
Well, there's actually a fifth person that comes in, and there's a fourth. They talk a little bit about this guy that was a former drug dealer who lives in Miami.
Yeah, like he was kind of there.
Yeah, that he's
like the fourth guy, but doesn't really have anything interesting going on besides the fact he used to be a former drug dealer.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it was they didn't have a lot of access to him. It took them hell to get any information from him. Which, you know.
But those four are the main like big cat people
in America. Well, and then we'll talk about the fifth one. He comes in later on.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I don't know how to we'll get to that as we get to it. So, we've talked about Doc Antle and his many wives that kind of run the show for his place.
And they all have to dress up.
Yeah, they all have their own characters. They had changed their names. And they kind of all play their own character.
What is his name? It's
he calls himself like the Bagua, which is a whole other type of. There's a whole other documentary about a different cult.
They've adopted
kind of a yogi vegan.
Yeah, like an Eastern
guru.
I can't remember what necessarily it is.
Religious aspect.
Yeah,
he kind of has the shaman kind of guru. I think was it?
If it's like a.
Because one of the things that they were talking about is he called himself basically like Lord or whatever. He has his own. He kind of projects himself as his own religious figure.
Yeah.
To his people, and his son makes a brief experience, and he says he is in his own universe, and that's the last you see of his son.
Basically, like fucking. Basically, being like, I'm just born. No, I'm just.
I didn't make a choice in this. I'm here. I'm here.
He definitely believes that's who he is, and just
and they kind of talk about Doc Antle. These young girls come to his place because he kind of projects himself as a guru type. A lot of them become his wives or his girlfriends, and they work. And they all get paid like maybe.
Can we describe the looks of Doc Antle? Like, to me, he looks like
a ringmaster and a close-up magician that you would find on the boardwalk of New Jersey kind of style. with.
To me, he looks like the sexiest nerd. You know, like he's always been a nerd and outcast his whole life.
Yeah, he does have
that.
that.
The hottest of the outcasts. You know, where he's not anywhere like if you were gonna throw him on a board of attractive, you wouldn't even.
Well, like his pictures from the 70s, he had the mustache. He looked like he was in the Allman Brothers band.
He just looks like he was the dungeon master.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew, and like he got all the other nerd ladies because he was the hottest nerd. Yeah. And then it still happened because now he has tigers.
Yeah.
You know, like he just never had to like step outside the world of just like everybody else.
True. He created his own universe, basically.
Yeah.
He really did.
Which isn't bad.
Yeah. And then,
I'm just saying, he's not what you would be going like, oh, girls are just throwing. It's not obvious that girls should be throwing.
Yeah. And then it talks about Joe Exotic. You know, he had his 2 husbands, which also were like 18, 19. When he brought them in, came from broken homes. Well, actually, I guess the one didn't come from a broken home. He came to work there, and essentially free weed is what drew him in. You know, and Joe Exotic basically was like, hey, are you gay? And he said,
he basically did a Ron White joke, because I'm pretty sure I heard that on a Ron White
It is
special.
a Ron White joke.
Boom! I know my...
I was sitting there going the same thing.
Because I was like, I know that joke. I don't know where I heard it. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Ron White.
Yeah, where it's like...
Because I can see him sucking on a stupid cigar thing and then doing
When you're watching porn, are you looking at the little dicks or the big dicks? Well, I guess we're all not that straight, are we? And he used that same line on this.
And I was like, I know, I've heard that before. And then I was talking to Mike about it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's a Ron White joke. And he was like, I have no fucking clue. And
it was definitely a Ron White joke.
But
and then
so
he ends up marrying those 2, and then I guess a lot of the other people were all like, he found a lot of his employees at a bus stop that didn't have a ride or nowhere to go.
Yeah, that seemed to be his like MO, just like go get whoever.
Yeah, do you have anywhere to go? No. You know, and a lot of people are, you know, drug addicts, alcoholics, whatever it is. They all have kind of a sad backstory, and his whole thing is, I'm giving them hope and a place to be, and very cult-like, and gives them a place to live, and they showed some living conditions, and it looked all very trap house.
Yeah, well, yeah, it looked like everybody was pulled from.
Yeah, it was.
Well, and they weren't getting paid.
No, they got paid
properly.
like $150 a day.
Everybody, but that's like the going rate. It seems like.
Yeah.
Carol Baskins, that son of a bitch, don't pay nobody nothing. Yeah, because everybody's.
I was gonna get to her. All her stuff is volunteer because she's a rescue organization, and she kind of laid out. You start off as a red shirt, which sounded very Star Trek-y. Yeah, so they all get fed to the tigers. No, they basically work the door, and then they have these different, you know, they have internships from like schools and stuff. You know, people working on different degrees, and they kind of get fast tracked. And you like kind of work your way up to where you can handle the tigers and feed them. But each one's a different step. You have to be like there a year or 2 years and take these different classes and so on, which makes it seem very legitimate. Mm. But essentially, she's charging, you know, shit tons for people to do these tours, and she's paying nobody. They're all on a volunteer basis. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get housing when you work with Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
So that's good, but so do you when you work with Doc Antle. You're not getting very much money, though. But tigers seem to be the thing. That was everybody's excuse for that. Was but tigers.
Yeah, we get to pet tigers. We get to feed tigers.
It's all like, who else? Which blows my mind because, tigers, like, I've been to zoos, and every time I go to a zoo, it makes me sad.
Yeah, and I think, it's the second episode that opens up with a girl that gets her arm ripped off.
Is it the second?
The second or the third?
It might be the third. You didn't make a note that said arm ripped off in your notes?
I forgot to write down. I don't remember which episode. Honestly.
But yes.
I'm pretty sure it was the second one.
8, and what we find out in the 8th episode is she prefers heat.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, actually, no, I didn't see the 8th episode. I didn't see that.
No, but that was one of the stupid questions. Fuck the 8th episode. I that's just all how I feel. I'm like, I watched the fucking Lights Out with David Spade, so everything I heard there was already out there. But that was one thing that did come out of it, is that she is called she, and he is called she, and he, you know.
Fluid. Hashtag woke.
Well, not fluid, just he. It's a he.
Oh, it's a he, okay.
So yeah, he gets his arm ripped off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the episode that it opened with that, because it talked about all the employees, and it started off with talking about, well, because he kept saying she and the thing, but
everybody kept saying she, and then because that was one of the questions, like, were you upset that you kept being called she? And she was like, nah, everybody, which I don't even know what to say. Let's talk about him getting his arm ripped off.
All right.
And then I'll continue to tell you how this motherfucker is a boss.
But either way, he stuck his arm in the cage. They didn't really quite say why, but they put the arm in the...
From the David Spade interview that I saw, it sounded like he got...
Got you.
It's gonna get me. I brought it up because I know it, and I don't want people to be like, "Oh, well, it's he." That is something
I didn't see that one
discussed. Yeah. Well, don't bother.
I
won't watch it, but yeah, you can watch everything else ever about these people and see that. But he said he got careless and wasn't necessarily paying as much attention as he should.
It's one of those things you get complacent.
Where he does the same thing. He was just like, I do the same thing every day. And then, you just kind of...
But the whole thing was, it was like, I guess the local news there blew up, and Carol Baskins jumped on it because there's the whole thing.
Because she's Carol fucking Baskins.
We're going to get to her even. But got her hand ripped off. He got her hand... The hand was ripped off.
I'm going to fuck up this whole...
Well, actually, the hand wasn't ripped off.
Fucking...
They said it's either 2 years of reconstructive surgery or amputate. And they said, well... He said amputate, so he could go back to work. He was out of the hospital in 7 days. Back at work, the news interviewed him. And basically, he didn't want people to use him as an example of, unsafe practices, and kind of use them to make them the poster boy of why this is wrong.
Because he takes full responsibility for, I'm the one who did that.
Yeah.
And it's of course they ripped my fucking arm off, but that's me who did that.
It was a mistake. Which is true of really any zoo. Because that's happened in other zoos. People have gotten careless because you get complacent or whatever, and things happen. Siegfried and Roy.
So fucking badass of fucking...
I'll give him credit for,
Well, just taking it,
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh my god, didn't sue.
He was passionate about it.
Didn't fucking go just understood that okay, I fucked up. Guess who doesn't have an arm?
Yeah.
And then just.
Well, it wasn't really the arm. It was right about here. So there's still.
I mean.
Just the important stuff is gone.
Doesn't have a hand and the lower.
It's got half a forearm.
Half a forearm. There you go.
Which, I mean, that was a whole other thing. And then you got Carol Baskins, who has volunteers, which I almost feel like that's even more dangerous.
Well, I mean, it sounds like she has more of a I don't.
A
She
tiered
has
system?
Yeah, a tiered system. So you have to definitely. But I don't know how much she said herself. She doesn't know any of these people.
Yeah,
like
that's what bothers me the most. She doesn't even know who half these people are.
She don't know any of these.
It's not until they've been there a couple of years and they've seen them plenty of times, which is kind of like, okay, this is your business, and you have volunteers who are dedicating their own time, missing holidays and everything else because they feel like they're doing their part to save tigers.
Well, because it's funny too, because she's just like, I don't know any of these people. Like, I got a tear, but she's benefiting from just the park itself. She's not really doesn't seem to be as involved as she wants people to think she is. Because she basically goes out there, does her thing. Hi, what did she say? Hello, cats and kittens, or whatever.
Yeah, she does her Facebook Live stuff. And
does
videos.
that, but she doesn't even know who works at the park. She doesn't know but she's just basically being the face and basically. Yeah. She owns it.
And she's getting donations from Facebook, I think she probably since she's I bet she's filed as a nonprofit, so she probably doesn't pay shit for taxes. Mm-hmm. I find so much wrong with her.
I know. Next episode, where are we at?
We are moving on to episode 3. The Carol's Secret.
Oh, yeah.
This is the episode where it talks about how her husband has suddenly... Her first husband... No. Technically...
She's had multiple...
They said it was her first husband.
Disappeared.
But then they said it was her second husband.
Yeah. Because her first husband also...
No, she left him for this guy.
Well, yeah, but I thought something happened... Her whole story, are we going to talk about the story of how she met this guy in the first place, too? Also fucking weird. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Well, it kind of grazed over.
Because she was walking,
yes.
The guy who went missing. She was walking something, I guess she was upset or whatever. This guy, her husband, was just like, he pulled up to her and was like, get in the car, like, blah, 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 whatever, and just, like, kept...
I think they met at a bar first or something, or...
I don't know. Whatever. Did they meet at a bar first?
I think, because I want to say they met somewhere, and she got pissed off with him, and she said she was, like, pacing.
Well, her ex, she got pissed off with
her ex.
And then
he saw her.
He was walking, and then he pulled up to her and was like, hey, get in the car... or whatever, I'll take you, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, fuck that. And then whatever. And then eventually he got her into the car.
Yeah, he said...
Pulled out a gun.
He said, I have a gun.
Because he was like, I just need to talk to somebody. He just kept going, I need to talk to somebody. I just need to talk to somebody. So...
And she wasn't bad looking in her younger years. I saw the picture. She wasn't bad looking.
No. Because she's a doe-eyed motherfucker. Yeah. Like, she's got the... She was cute, especially I'm imagining like 70s cute. She's got like the bell bottom, long fucking. She 70s hot, 100% Twiggy, but like maybe even 60s, probably 60s,
70s.
How old is she?
I don't know. A lot of them seem to talk about they got to start in the 70s.
Bad, Justin.
So I'm going to talk about my opinions, I guess, of Carol while we wait. She is a very questionable person. And as we're going to see a lot more in this next episode we talk about, with the disappearance of her second husband, I guess, technically. They kept saying first husband, but it was technically her second husband, because she's married to the other guy first, when she's out walking around. But just, she really comes off as somebody that she's using all the self-righteousness and the animal rights activism, and there's a lot of things that it just comes off as she's only doing this because it benefits her. She gets to play with her big cat. She has her pets. You know, she's like the crazy cat lady turned up to 1,000. I don't know, man. She had a lot of questionable presentation. Now, I also don't know if that was also kind of the way that the documentary was presented to me, too. I do feel like a lot of these people though started off wholeheartedly, and I'll kind of get up to my wrap up to this at the end. But it kind of seemed like Joe Exotic started off with good intentions. Maybe even Doc Antle in the beginning. They had their passion, they had their love. They wanted to promote conservation, and they saw the way to do it was through these different means. And maybe Carol started off that way, but at the same time, there's also this whole thing of where she kept pushing all this legislation to essentially push all her competition out of business, which seemed very Vince McMahon-y. You know, why have one slice of the pie when you can have the whole thing? That's kind of the presentation that I saw of it, and kind of my conclusions. If you watch the documentary, you'll come to your own conclusions. But there's a lot of things that are just like, what? Especially with her, and I mean, all these people are very questionable in everything that they do. It's like the most questionable friend that you know, but yet they have big hats and money. Joe Exotic, he built a character and became it. He really took the whole commit to the bit, and I think he got totally wrapped up into it to where he no longer knew himself and who the bit was anymore. That's kind of what I got from Joe Exotic. All right, so I was kind of just ranting about just kind of my thoughts on the random people. I didn't really go too much more, just kind of my own thoughts. I didn't get to the full wrap up yet because I wasn't ready there. I wasn't ready yet. So we just kind of started talking about Carol Baskins. She meets her husband.
In a weirdest way possible.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't say I've ever seen a girl pacing up and down, pissed off, and thought, you know what? I should go talk to her and then tell her I have a gun you can point at me. So she meets him. Turns out this guy is a millionaire. Nobody knows exactly how much money he has because apparently he likes to bury money. He's got old bars. He's kind of like a pirate. He just buries money. He's got investments. There's money all over the place. And it really delves deep into the relationship, and they talk to Carol Baskin's first husband's, what was his name again? Lewis. Something Lewis. I don't know. First and second, the husband that went missing. They talked to his children. He had children with another woman prior to meeting her. And they talk about how he's one of those people that you wouldn't assume that he had money. But it looks like he ran a trucking company, I guess. They never really told me exactly. They never really say how he made his money. But basically they said anything he touched turned to gold, basically. He really was good at making money with different businesses. Started from nothing. Now he's here. He draked it. Met her. And things started to sour because apparently one of the themes is all these people like to throw poon and wang around. Well, I mean, Carol kind of seemed to have the one husband throughout the show, but she did have previous husbands. Yeah. She's the only one that seems to be not as promiscuous. Not as.
I mean, we really, as far as we know.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't close the curtain properly. But yeah, it didn't get too much into her love life, except for the fact that the one husband went missing after. Did I get it? Ooh, elbow in the camera.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I mean, it's still.
And that works. All right. So that husband went missing. But the lead up to it is basically he had a lot of freaking money. He's slang Wang like crack in the 80s. Or dong. Whatever. He was after that poo. And I guess Carol didn't like it. There was some rumors that he wanted a divorce. But the other thing that was interesting is to find out that the way this whole started is he was really into big cats and
buying them, selling them, breeding them, all of that.
Doing the same thing Joe Exotic and Doc Antle were doing. But I guess there was some hesitation on her part where she didn't want to breed them and sell them and so on and so forth. That's kind of part of the story. It's so much to unpack. It's.
We should just unpack it, though.
Okay.
Because if we go episode by episode, it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah, you're right. But he goes missing. And a lot of the underlying things, she wanted a divorce, and he had millions of dollars. But once he went missing, she just kind of just bum rushed everything.
Well, yeah, because before he went missing, he was like, "Hey, my wife's a fucking crazy bitch. If something happens to me,
yeah,
this fucking broad did it."
Yeah, he had said something to somebody.
Yeah.
Was his lawyer or family?
He also had a secretary or something.
Yeah, and she was kind of like the trusted one of everything.
Yeah, and he was just he had said something to friends like, "Hey, if something happens to me, it's definitely her.
Yeah,
she's fucking he had filed a restraining order against her."
But they couldn't honor it because it was only threats. There was no actual...
There was no...
physical anything.
Yeah, to prove that it was warranted.
Yeah.
So... yeah, there were actions taken against her.
Yeah. But... too little, too late? kind of thing?
Well, too little, too soon, I guess. I mean, I guess you have to survive the first attack to get a restraining order to actually mean shit. But, he didn't.
Yeah, the whole thing about his van was left at an airport with the keys in it, and then the police let Carol take the thing back. It was on the property for days before they searched it. And then, of course, Joe Exotic gets a hold of all this information, and he's just constantly, did you check the sewer system? Did you check the DNA in the tiger's poop? Because there's a whole thing that, possibly she fed it. And Joe Exotic... the one thing we didn't talk about, he does songs, and he makes music videos, and he did a whole parody video with this woman that looked like her feeding her husband to the cats. And that...
I can't remember what that was called. I want to say Here Kitty Kitty.
Yeah, I think it was Here Kitty Kitty.
Something like that.
But I guess that there's a whole music video on that whole thing, and...
well, because, because part of the big thing with Carol Baskins, the main big thing with Carol Baskin and him is he decided to use, I think he said, was it just big cats? Because there was a copyright issue that started a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, that comes here after a little bit. Yeah, there's...
I didn't know if Carol was already gunning from it. Well, because the whole thing is she has this thing called the Big Cat Act or something like that.
Yeah.
Which would have fucked over Doc Antle and Joe.
And anybody that wants to own
big
exotic animals.
Yeah.
Which, to me, honestly, I feel like...
besides her, basically, because she's, I guess, classified as
besides a rescue. Besides her and anybody else that has the same classification, basically.
Yeah.
And she wants to stop the breeding.
She even says herself, this is where cats go to die, basically. She was just like...
yeah, she has this whole little cemetery
and she shows the whole cemetery.
But my whole thought is
okay, but
why isn't she getting prepared to release into the wild? I understand some can't because they've been in captivity so long.
I assume most of them can't be returned to, because once you take... even the young ones, you can't throw something that's been bottle fed and fucking...
yeah.
And has no fucking sense of... you just can't do it. So I think once they're born in captivity, they're fucked.
Yeah.
So I think she may not be breeding them now.
But she was.
But that's why I think she's a rescue, is because she is taking in other cats now.
Yeah.
She's not building them up herself.
Yeah.
Now she's
keeping them in the cage and making money off them.
Yeah.
I don't know. The biggest thing that bothers me is she has volunteers. Like, if she had at least have, like, a certain amount of volunteers that do the minor stuff and then paid staff that do the dangerous stuff, that'd be different. But it was volunteers all the way up to the people that handle the cats, feed them, and man, that just...
And even necessarily don't... Who's training these people, though? That's where
thing,
you never... they never really, like, who's the person... Is the main person in charge at least know what the fuck's up?
Yeah, is it just other volunteers training other volunteers?
Because honestly, if you don't have to go to a school to deal with big cats, I mean, like, that is something somebody could just pass down to somebody else and be fine. Like, but is there even somebody who knows how to handle them there at all in the first place?
Besides Carol?
That's the question with all of them. Yeah. It's like, it just sounds like basically... You're just praying to God every day you go to work. A fucking animal does not rip you apart, because I don't think any of them have any type of... Well, Doc Animal went to someplace.
No, wasn't he... that was a different guy that we haven't gotten to him yet, but his family had the circus.
No, but he was like a... circus isn't even training either, but like a... Didn't he go be a part of something? That made him also... Wasn't he, like, raised around, like, weird animals?
Yeah, he was raised around...
Like some
he was raised with animals or something.
Hippy-dippy Indian shit. That sounds so...
I think they had a farm, and then there was a bear, and... Crap. I forgot. That's in episode 1.
Justin, you're fresher than I am.
I know, that was episode 1. That's what they talk about.
That's true. I mean, Doc Antle really is. He's just in there just... for like the sex and the ladies.
Yeah, he just sexes
he just sexes all the ladies.
Yeah.
They were like, we're giving you some gay stuff, now let us give you some straight stuff.
I know, I think that started with him and then went to Joe Exotic and his husbands. But so this is where things start to ramp up a bit more. Where Carol really starts pushing the Big Cat or Exotic Animal Act or whatever the heck it was. Shit, I forgot what they called it.
It's the Big Cat Act or something like that.
Yeah, but her whole thing was she was just trying to ban all the stuff that Joe Exotic, Doc Antle, and any other random person.
Yeah, it's just private. It's a good cause.
Yeah,
because it's just like private
zoos,
ownership
basically.
Of a big cat or exotic animal.
Yeah. And, to be honest, I really feel like, does anybody really need to have a tiger as a pet?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Nobody should, but she's also excluding herself.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's annoying about it. She's just like, I qualify as a rescue.
Yeah,
I'm like, everybody else should have, just because she was smart enough to be like, hey, you know what, if I called a rescue and I still charge, like, I don't have to do any of the other stuff. Everybody else was just like, I want to be a badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Everybody else was egoing.
And
she was out there fucking finding loopholes.
Yeah, and this gets more into where Joe Exotic, because like I said, he had that producer that was following him around that was wanting to make a reality show out of him, and he was filming everything you could possibly film. I mean, Joe Exotic is just shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, and just like going after Carol, like just ramping it up, just going, just total ham, just like I guess there was at one point where he got a hold of her diary, and that's when she was reading. He was reading all the stuff about her husband that went missing. He was constantly going in that she needs to be in jail. She killed her husband. Just nonstop doing stuff. And then this is what really screwed himself over. Is that's when we're talking about the trademark stuff. He renamed his traveling road show Big Cat Rescue Entertainment, and then even took part of her logo, and then started taking other people's photos of her and photoshopping stuff on there. And that turned, she started suing him for copyright infringement and all this other stuff, which a lot of stuff she did seemed very questionable on how she even got to sue him in the first place. Because some of the stuff he did was absurd and over the top. And I can kind of see the copyright stuff, but he was kind of like walking that fine line. He didn't necessarily take copyrighted material, but he came pretty damn close. It was it was close enough to where I can see where she had a case to stand on. But I guess they never actually went to court, and the judge made an injunction or whatever and granted her $1 million in assets. So she started going after everything else he owned, and he kept transferring.
Because fucking Joe Exotic is not worth fucking that much.
Yeah. And he kept moving all his assets around into his mother's name and his husband's names and so on and so forth. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And he was starting not being able to afford his animals. So I guess the whole thing is she's after trying to get his zoo. One of the news anchors that was kind of covering the story was like, she thought that once she got the judgment, it would be like, okay, this is just to make a statement. But she's got all the money in the world. Does she really need to make him pay? And she went after everything, and so
yeah, that's because Carol Baskins, she's riding around on her fucking bike with her fucking little flower crown, and she's like, oh, I'm the queen of the fucking tigers. Okay, yeah. Cool, I'm down with that. But then she's already a fucking millionaire, and already under suspicious reasons.
Yeah. That whole thing.
I don't know if that came. Did they say that before they started saying how much she was coming after him, or was it afterwards that they revealed?
No, they revealed how much her missing husband was worth in the beginning. Well, alleged somewhere between $5 million and $20 million.
Because the thing that's amazing to me is just like the fact that, like, because everybody's like, yeah, we didn't think she would actually try to collect, and then she did, and that's where I'm like, all right, you fucking vengeful bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, because it's like, Joe, okay, like, at this point, Joe Exotic is just a fucking...
He's a
lovable dude. He's gay. I don't know if we talked about that.
We talked about husbands.
Yeah, but he's gay. They talk about in the beginning that his father made him, in his mother's presence, shake his hand once he found out he's gay and say, "Don't show up in my funeral."
Yeah.
Basically, so it's like, so at this point, you're like, he's gone through a lot of shit. He's fucking being persecuted because he's gay, his family, and that. I mean, like. You feel for the dude.
Yeah, I think, like...
And then it's also, like, this dumb fucking bitch, Carol fucking Baskins, whose husband is fucking missing, like, who she probably fucking fed to the tigers, and now she's trying to take his furniture. She's attacking his parents, which also, that's Joe's fault, too.
Yeah.
But all of that, but, like, coming for these people when they have... fuck all to give her.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's so frustrating at that point.
Yeah, like
I'm just like,
she is not
fucking bitch
painted as the angel she tries to portray herself as.
Go ride your fucking bike, you dumb bitch. Like, it's just like it pisses me off because it's just like, I get it, because if he lost the lawsuit, blah 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 blah.
And this is where things really take a turn and everything starts falling apart for Joe. Like, he has no money. Like, I guess
he starts blowing his own shit up.
Yeah.
Just so she can't fucking have it, which I'm like, fucking do that, because that bitch killed her fucking husband, and like...
and then the producer's filming everything.
Yeah.
Every little thing that's possible to get on camera, because he's like, this is going to make great TV. And he's even sitting there thinking... This is going to make him a lot of money. It's going to make me a lot of money. It's going to this whole lawsuit thing is going to be done and dusted when all this gets on the air. You know, he was looking for the whole Discovery Channel, national, whatever network. And so Carol's taking everything from him. You know, he's in dire straits. They even talked about at one point, like, they couldn't get enough food to feed the cats.
Yeah, so there were...
So he's getting desperate, and he's blowing everything up, and then all of a sudden, his studio, which also I guess was attached to an alligator sanctuary, suddenly catches fire, burns everything. All the footage that the producer had, which it couldn't be all of it because they had a lot of it in the thing. So I guess a good majority of it was lost in this massive fire. Mm-hmm. And then that's when Joe's pointing fingers at him. He's pointing fingers at Joe. Everybody's pointing fingers at who did what. Joe starts putting up this thing, I'm going to give $10,000 to figure out whoever burned down my studio and killed these alligators.
Because he just happened to go out of town.
Yeah.
During the time that...
And then there's video camera footage that just shows a guy that's walking similar to the way the one dude walks. But I really do believe, why would that producer burn up all of his footage that he's been working so hard for? You know, because that's his whole goal, is he's trying to get that big contract. I know what that's like firsthand, trying to produce something and really wanting to make something of it and dedicating your life to it. Hence, us being here. So,
because, okay, well, it's important to note. I don't know how you're setting things up, but also it's important to note that him and Joe got the producer, or is it a producer?
Yeah, he's the one who's the producer.
Got in a huge fight.
Yeah.
Before, and the producer said, basically, I own you.
Yeah, he said, I own all the rights to all your Joe Exotic TV videos, because that was the whole thing in the contract. Joe approached him saying, you know, I need somebody to make my Joe Exotic TV or .TV, his web show, audience grow and make it more professional. And he was a TV producer, and he's like, sure, why not? But here's my terms, you know, and part of that was I own the rights to all this stuff from the reality show, and I own all the rights to the Joe Exotic .TV show. And there's a whole thing. I'm still not sure who put the camera in. I'm guessing the producer put the camera in Joe Exotic stuff when Joe Exotic went to talk to the lawyer. Mm-hmm. And the lawyer asked if the guy had any of the stuff backed up besides what's in the studio. He said no, and then the whole place burnt down. Yeah. So
there's some sketchy moves being made by
everyone.
Yeah.
And Joe Exotic's trying to paint it as maybe it was Carol Baskins or one of her supporters. PETA, whatever, tried to burn this thing down.
What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I feel like Joe did it.
I feel like, okay, there's two reasonable theories, and this is just because I've watched some interviews. And they said they saw the video with the guy walking like the producer dude. Yeah. The producer dude said himself that he had to go to therapy after this because of all the shit he had seen and all the stuff he had done and all this other stuff. Yes, he says, I was looking for a lot of money in there, but if he's fucking feeling like an emotional crisis because what the fuck, like I'm watching this dude because that's another thing. He said there were plenty of times that Joe had just killed animals. Yeah. And all that stuff. So I'm like, what if he did it just because it was like such a burden on his own conscience? I can see that. But I really do believe Joe Exotic fucking burned the shit. Especially
it really seemed more like...
After he said, like, I own you, I own, like, what you do, I think he was just like, well, then get the fuck out.
Yeah, Joe had more motive to burn it down.
I think he was just like, dude, like... I can see it. I mean, I'm just like, there, it could have been anybody, honestly. Because, too, like, the people he keeps around there. And also, just, people, they were saying that accidents happened around there. I mean, you got a lot of people on meth just fucking doing what the fuck
happened. And that gets talked about later on is the meth use.
But just, like, it could be a who fucking know. Maybe none of them did it, and somebody else did.
Maybe it was. Like, it very well could have been.
Because it sounded like a sketchy fucking place to fucking be. But there were also talks, I think, in other interviews of just like the accidents that would happen around there, just because you got a lot of fucked up people. Like.
Oh yeah. And then this is where it gets to where Joe starts running for president, too. He tries to run for president during the Trump, and he evens up on was it John Oliver's Last Week Tonight? Was it Last Week Tonight, or was it when? I think it was Last Week Tonight, because he had stopped doing the Colbert Report. Yeah, it was Last Week Tonight. He shows up on John Oliver's thing where he's talking about you don't want to vote for Hillary, you don't want to vote for Trump. Well, how about this independent? And it showed one of the videos where he talks about, he's broke, he likes kinky sex, and all this other stuff, and talks about he does drugs and I ain't gonna change, or whatever. Then John Oliver makes the whole joke about, yeah, that's the kind of guy you want to have a beer with, and then another beer with, and another beer with, and and so then he was making fun of Joe Exotic, but Joe Exotic, goes right to his head, because Joe Exotic, I think, went from building the character to living that character. Mm-hmm. And then he's running for president, and he's interviewing this other dude. He says, "Are we ready for a gay, polygamous, gun-toting, mullet-sporting redneck?" And they start blowing stuff up, and he's like, "This is my international policy on whatever," blow something up. So that's what we're going to do to ISIS. And so on and so forth. Clearly, he didn't win, the presidential race. So then he runs for governor of Oklahoma. And they interview the guy that I guess the guy was a manager at a grocery store or something. And Joe Exotic is like, "Oh, hey, you want to come be my campaign manager?" And he's like, "That's my dream." So he becomes his campaign manager. And
well, apparently he had already been working for Joe Exotic. And then Joe Exotic was like, "Hey, be my campaign manager."
Was he? I thought he was a manager at a grocery store.
No, that's in the 8th episode. Too.
Oh.
But it's basically that. But he had known him, worked for him before, and then was like, "Be my campaign manager."
Okay. So he becomes his campaign manager. He talks about, okay, this is where things just start going sideways from all different directions. So there's the lawsuit. I think this is around the time where he meets the Jeff Lowe guy, or was it shortly after? No, he meets Jeff Lowe while the lawsuits are going on. And Jeff Lowe presents himself as a millionaire. He has a mansion and a Ferrari and a hot wife.
He's going to help pay the bills, and he's going to limit the amount of Walmart trucks they got to fucking raid to fucking...
Yeah, and then...
Not raid, but...
Yeah, because Joe Exotic, the way he feeds his animals is with donations or basically spoiled meat coming from Walmart.
And that's also how he fed his...
Staff.
So...
And possibly how he made his pizza, which comes after he meets the Jeff Lowe guy. And Jeff Lowe tells Joe Exotic he's going to help save his business. He listens into a conversation with Carol Baskins and the lawyers, or Howard Baskins. He listens to a conversation with them and lawyers. He suddenly jumps in, says all this stuff. They hang up the conversation. I guess Jeff Lowe gets him attorneys. And the whole thing is the best way the attorney advises him, I don't know. That whole thing is sketchy too. Everything is sketchy. If you have owned a big cat, you're probably sketchy, and I apologize if there's a non-sketchy person that owns big cats.
You're probably a nerd, dork.
Well, Mike
with
Tyson
no social
owns
skills.
he owned tigers in his sketchy pig.
And guess who the fuck got rid of their tigers? Everybody. Everybody who gets them gets rid of them.
Yep.
And the people who keep them, nerds. Nothing wrong with being a nerd, but also just realize you're a nerd and not the fucking god you're trying to.
Just don't be a slimy nerd.
That's the one thing that always.
I think that's the moral of this whole story. Don't be a slimy nerd. So, Jeff Lowe comes in as supposed to be saving it, and then that's when Joe Exotic signs pretty much everything over to him, the entire zoo. Jeff takes over the zoo, and Joe's basically the face of the place. He's running all the shows and everything else. And that's where things go from sideways to crooked and upside down, I guess. Because it turns out the mansion that Jeff brought Joe to he was renting. And I guess he was behind payments on the Ferrari. Turns out Jeff has a criminal record as well for all kinds of things. He introduced him to another businessman who owned a strip club, also had a criminal. Turns out pretty much everybody has a criminal record.
Yeah.
That is involved in this big cat thing. So you got Joe who cons people and you got Jeff who cons people. And it kind of becomes trying to out-con each other, I guess.
I don't feel like it was like who was trying to out-con each other. I felt like Jeff had conned him just from the get-go.
It's possible, because Joe was desperate at that time.
And that's just where it was. It was just like Joe needed Jeff. So he...
And Jeff had...
Maybe he thought eventually he could out-con Jeff, but that's not what happened.
Because Jeff had big cats of his own, which he'd bring to Vegas, and they have these big old orgies, and he would... This whole thing, he was not shy about, I like the poon, my wife is down with it, we have orgies, we're swingers, yada, yada, yada. Party it up, Vegas style. So...
Okay, so where are we in this, though? Because
we're almost towards the end.
Because we haven't even talked about the kid shooting himself in the head. This is why
we're about to get to that.
Are we? Because you talked about the campaign manager.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's during that time.
Well, because I had to backtrack to Jeff, because Jeff came in during that time in the campaign. These notes are not helping.
No, they are not helping.
There's just so much.
We just talked about it. Because
I know.
Now I feel like we don't have a cohesive...
There's just so much that happens. That's all I was trying to keep notes. It's just... But yes, during the campaign... Yeah, because I was talking about the campaign, then I had to backtrack because Joe or Jeff...
That's why it's like... Because it's one whole thing. You just got to explain it all like the chunk of the story it is.
Well, that's what I was trying to flow to. That's why I kind of had it broke down this way. And it's not helping because we're going way over our time. We're about an hour over what I wanted to go. But, so, during the campaign thing for being governor at this time, I think it's the governor campaign now. This is the time where the first husband that Joe was talking about, turns out he knocked up the secretary or the front desk lady. She was pregnant with his son because turns out neither one of his husbands were actually gay.
There's
Travis and the guy with messed up teeth.
Yeah, well, just that.
Yeah.
If you watch the fucking thing, if you don't, just
the
whole thing is to guide you there. I don't know.
Yeah. So
dude with no teeth.
Yeah, the first dude, he both Travis and the other dude were banging all the chicks, basically, except for him, the one-armed man.
Because he's a dude.
Yes. So they're not even gay, and Travis isn't gay, but Joe just buys them everything. Basically, they're gay for pay, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in it because they're getting whatever they want. I guess one dude's saying that he's had multiple trucks and whatever he wants, Joe gets it for him. Travis, he loves smoking weed, and drugs was a constant theme for both of them. Weed, drugs, whatever. It was there, and Travis was down like 4 flat tires, no spare. And he was in for the drugs and everything. And Travis is banging everybody. The other dude's banging everybody. The other guy had left him for the woman. And Joe's like, well, shit. I can't compete with a woman. So, whatever. He takes off with her. They go have their family somewhere else. Now it's just Travis and Joe. And the campaign manager is sitting there in the new studio.
Well, I think it's yeah.
Because I guess Joe got one of his friends or somebody that worked there to build this $120,000 studio for like $8,000. Because tigers, is what he said. Everybody's like, oh, because of tigers.
So they're sitting there, and Travis, I guess, had been known to be
a prankster.
A prankster. He goes up, and you see the video, and he comes up with this gun to
the campaign manager.
I want to say his name was Josh, but I'm not quite sure.
Might be Josh.
Came up to him, was talking about this gun, and was just like, that Joe had bought him, and he was just like, don't you know, he came up to him, just waving it in his face, and he was like, hey, get away from me. And then,
yeah, because he had talked about Joe, and everybody's always pointing guns at each other, apparently. Apparently that's the thing you do when you work at least at this place. You point guns at each other.
So he was just like, yeah, get away from me. And he said something like,
he hasn't been happy.
The clip's not in the gun, basically, so it won't fire or whatever. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, really, or whatever. And he put it to his head, pulled the trigger, boom, and shot himself in the head.
Yeah, and then you just see the dude just sitting there with his...
like this.
Totally gasped.
The whole time. And when I saw the reaction, because you just hear boom, and you just see the guy go. And he's just sitting there.
He's like frozen for a good, 3, 4, 5 minutes.
And it's 100% what I would have done, because that's my reaction to anything. And I was just like, that's dude. And you can just see him trying to process it, because that's what I do too.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that was the most relatable fucking thing in the whole. Like, I've never seen somebody shoot, but just his reaction and seeing and just watching him process it. And he's just, like, still talking to him, but he knows he's dead. And just, like, oh, my God. I was like, that poor dude.
Yeah, he know what to do.
That poor fucking dude. Because it's like, what can you do?
Yeah,
except for sit there and go.
Yeah, because I remember him talking about, this was during the time of the campaign, because Joe Exotic kind of loses his focus.
But this is the shittiest part of that, is because the documentary in the like right before this happens, there's footage of Travis, and he's just like talking about like, all right, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette before I go or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's a totally different isolated incident. This isn't before he shot himself, so it makes it look like he was going to kill himself.
Yeah, because there's a whole
and then the whole, how he explains it is like he just thought it wasn't gonna fire.
Yeah, I don't know, because the way you could see where he talks about, I'm like, handsome, I got big hands.
And he's like, Joe doesn't care about me and all this other stuff. And he's he's just talking about how it's all about Joe and all this other stuff. And and then he's like sitting there in like this field with like this fucking rifle or something. And it's just like, I'm going to smoke a cigarette before I die or whatever. And then it goes into this scene where it's the campaign manager or whatever sitting there, and he even says that this is what happens, but it still leaves you with the thought of like, was he going to kill himself?
Yeah. Well, because
but it sounds like it was just a pure.
Well, because even earlier on, where they were just interviewing him, where he was on camera wearing the uniform there, he was saying, "I'm Joe's husband. I'm handsome. I got big hands. I'm from California," and you can see the kind of this look in his face where he closed at the end. I guess I'm good looking or whatever he says, and then it just stops there, and you kind of see he has this kind of look on his face like, I guess I'm just here because it's convenient for me, but I'm not happy.
Yeah. He definitely, I don't think he was happy in it, but I don't think he was going to kill himself. And it leads it up like he was going to kill himself on purpose, like that, like this was a thing. But I really think it was a whoopsie. And it was a bad one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's hard to say. We really don't know.
Well, we do know because we talked to the guy who was there.
Well, no, but we don't
saw the whole thing.
But we don't know what was going through.
No, we don't know what was going through his head. But also we know what he said and what.
Yeah.
They pointed guns at each other before, and the guy in the eighth episode, he does go like, "You don't." I saw him. The guy was like, people were wondering if he like. I don't know, Joe McHale. Blah. He's not blah. This is the first time I realized people love the shit out of Joe McHale because I was like, the 8th episode is Joe McHale interviewing people after David Spade did the exact same thing. And you can watch that on YouTube for free. Like, I was just basically like, really? Like, I was all like, oh, it's just Joe McHale interviewing everybody. And Maverick was all like, I'm definitely going to watch it. And I was like, okay. And then I was all like, and then Deborah was all like, I was like, well, don't bother with the 8th one because it's just Joe McHale interviewing, like, and whatever. And she's like, I might watch that. And I was like, I did not know people loved Joe McHale so much. Like, I never really watched The Soup, but it's not very much. I mean, it's all information that was already out there. I thought I was getting new shit, but like.
It was kind of like Walking Dead after.
But the guy says he's like, I saw the look in his eyes before he died of him being like, what shocked, just completely shocked, and he's like, he didn't come in here to kill himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I haven't seen the
episode. And I don't think honestly, if you actually look at the episode, I don't think he meant to either. And listen to the guy in the first place, where he's just like, he pointed it at me.
Yeah.
And then pointed it at him and said, like, hey, this wouldn't fire anyway. And then he put it to his own head and then pulled the trigger. I'm like, I don't think he meant to kill himself.
Possible.
But the way they lead it up to it makes it look like he might have, and I really don't think he did.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to see
was he probably fucking depressed? No doubt in my fucking
doubt in my fucking
There
was a lot, because he had mentioned many times he wasn't happy.
He was not happy. He definitely was not happy there, he did not kill himself because of that.
He's not only in a gay relationship, he's married to a dude, and he's not even gay.
Which they weren't apparently technically married, because...
Well, yeah, because legalities.
Yeah.
But they did a ceremony.
But, yeah. That's a whole weird thing in itself. Like, Joe Exotic's already, like... For me, that whole thing was like, oh, dude, Joe.
We still haven't gotten to the big shebang.
Joe, what do you mean that is the big shebang?
We haven't
Fucking Travis killing himself is like the most tragic part of this whole story.
Well, yeah, that is.
Because whether he meant to or not, the kid's dead.
Yeah.
And then the funeral. We have to talk about the funeral.
Oh, yeah, the funeral
because, oh my God.
It was like Joe, cameraman,
I want somebody to be the Joe.
Mother.
Oh my God, yeah.
The mother of Travis, and who else? But it wasn't really a funeral. It was like
it was a Joe.
It was like a press conference.
Exotic, concert. He sang some stuff. He talked about Travis putting his balls
on his forehead or something.
In front of his mom, and his mom just fucking lost her baby, and she's just hearing this dude talk about how his balls were on his fucking...
And he's singing these songs.
That's where I was like, oh my God, Joe, no, like.
And she was saying that the whole thing is about.
Yeah, like it was all about him.
Everything's a performance, basically.
And it was so. I felt so bad for her because it's like, regardless if her son meant to take his life or didn't, that's rough. That's the hardest thing. And then like, cause, okay, it's one thing if you meant to. All right, that's rough. Your son wanted to kill yourself, but then it's also like he was joking around and then also shot himself.
Yeah.
On accident. That's got to be extra rough because your
and then
son didn't want to die.
Funeral is just a circus.
Yeah, a guy just basically being like,
"Look at me."
Yeah, and that was like that's the hardest part I think really of the whole thing for me. Like, yeah, I love tigers, I love animals, but at the same time, like watching this mother have to sit there and cry while this dude's like talking about how he put his balls in.
And then like, just singing songs that he wrote.
He didn't even write them. He didn't even sing them. Somebody else did. So it's like that makes it even worse. Yeah. He's up there fucking doing a karaoke. Not even a karaoke, just fucking.
He's lip syncing.
Lip syncing.
He's not Jessica Simpson. What's her sister's name on Saturday Night Live that was caught lip syncing? Ashley Simpson it.
But it's crazy. It's just crazy. Like that part to me, I was like, yeah. Like it was just like this is definitely. I feel bad because mother did lose her son, but at the same time, I'm like, this is exactly what it looks like it is.
Yeah.
Like it's a fucking methed up fucking place where people are fucking running a fucking muck.
And nobody's they have a shitload of cats.
Yeah, like it just sounds insane. And then this guy's out here with guns and he's like,
it's a trap house.
Probably on drugs.
Yeah.
And they even said
everybody was on drugs, especially meth. It was like a trap house posing as a zoo.
Which is, I mean, that's the one you want to be at. Right?
Yeah, I guess. Until you get your hand ripped off.
That's amazing. It sounds like she's fine. He's fine.
All right. So now we move into.
I have to pee again, just.
We took our little pee break. If I remember correctly, we were wrapping up on Travis's demise. Yeah. That whole sadness. Too much sadness in this podcast.
Oh,
but
I really do think that fucked Joe up, though.
Yeah.
Like, hard.
Yeah, so now we're getting to... We wrapped up the funeral. Joe's still in the middle of his gubernatorial election process. And I get the campaign manager was talking about how Joe got very distracted at that time and then met the other dude that I forgot his name.
Oh, yeah, he ended up with another guy, didn't he?
Yeah, he met some other dude on a website and they got married very quickly. And then Joe got back into the campaign. He did not get elected as governor.
But the marriage part, too, is the part with Travis's mom where he invited
her to the wedding. No, the wedding was the press conference thing.
Yeah.
The funeral was the Joe Exotic show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then...
Yeah, because basically he brought her in as to show... Oh, shit.
As, like, his witness for,
Hang on. Now we're proper.
for him, getting,
married. Basically, he invited her to be like, look, she has, it's her blessing.
Yeah.
And she was kind of upset about a lot of things.
Which I would have
I don't blame her, yeah.
There's a lot of things Joe did that I'm like...
I mean, nobody in this
looks super fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's also what I love about it, is because like in other documentaries and especially in Netflix ones, you see people that got their hair all dyed. They're like that, you know, that they came here for this interview. They're all dressed up. They're all like, these are people who just were fucking talking. Like, and yeah, I think a lot of them regret that decision. Not having teeth, not not doing more to make themselves not look like a whole bunch of meth heads.
Yeah. So we've gotten past this part. Joe did not get elected as governor. Now things have gone sour with Jeff Lowe, who's kind of taking over everything.
Yeah, he came in.
He owns the zoo. Basically, he's kind of taken over and been bankrolling a lot of stuff. And I guess Joe Exotic has been embezzling money to pay for the gubernatorial election process. And so they have a falling out now. And, I missed the part where they're talking about Jeff Lowe's issues in Vegas.
Yeah, I don't remember what necessarily happened with him, but something happened
But
with
he had
him,
some legal issues too. So basically,
to where it sounded like he might have flipped on Joe Exotic.
No, that was, that was part of it too. Because
he had some legal issues or something that made it sound like it would have.
I guess the feds were investigating Jeff, or maybe. Honestly, I missed that part. I had to go pee at that time, and I didn't pause it, and I apologize.
Well, and I also have no memory skills.
But essentially, Jeff had some legal issues in Vegas, got a deferment, and the judge said, don't do anything illegal, don't get in trouble, and it'll all go away, essentially. So Jeff packs everything up, moves back to Oklahoma, and stays on the zoo. So I guess they had because he was on the zoo before, and then there was like some back and forth issues with, I think it was like after the suicide, the accidental death, whatever happened with Travis, that's when I think he had left around that time, because he was like, oh, this shit's crazy, I'm going to back off. He went to Vegas and started with some kind of exotic bus tours or something in Vegas, and I think maybe that's what we got in trouble over.
Yeah,
I missed that part. I apologize.
All we know for sure is he was bringing tigers around, sexy ladies, and banging them.
Yeah, he got in trouble.
As I remember.
And now there's this whole issue with Joe, and there's this whole big confrontation. And
Jeff Lowe brings in that one guy, Alan.
Yeah, who's a very questionable person as it is.
Yeah.
And that was talked about during the whole lawsuit situation with Carol.
Yeah, and he brought him in. And I guess the way...
Basically as a maintenance guy.
The way the other employees describe it makes it sound like that's where the real turning point was for everything. Was they brought him in. They brought this Alan dude in who did not respect Joe at all.
Yeah, he wouldn't do anything Joe asked him to do. He said, I don't work for you, I work for Jeff. And Jeff's like, well, it's true, he doesn't work for you. And it was a big old thing. The tension started building with Jeff from that point. And there was a confrontation about money being missing. And shortly after that, Joe gathers up as much as he can and takes off. He disappears, there's investigations, and now there's suddenly a plot to hire somebody to kill Carol. And this is where things get really muddled and really weird, because I do feel like Joe really wanted Carol dead. But at the same time, her being killed would benefit Jeff, would benefit Doc, which I don't think Doc had anything to do with anything. He had his own little situations going on his own. But there was a lot of recorded audio of Jeff and Joe talking about having somebody kill Carol, and there was maps and talking about her bike path, and there was videos of her, showing her doing her little cats and kittens and they found the bike path, and I guess at some point there's conflicting stories on whether Alan dude was hired to kill her or not, because there's audio of him saying, "No, I ain't going to Florida. I don't give a shit. I ain't gonna do none of that. I don't care how much it is." And then
his interviews always make me giggle, because I'm like, there's a man who I feel like got away with something, and the way he talks to the cameras makes me go like, he got away with something, and he's like, well, I guess I just never made it there.
Yeah.
I guess I just never showed up. Like, he doesn't want to admit that necessarily they might have set him up or they might not have. Like, yeah. Or that he just knew he was never going to do it. He just basically goes, I guess I just never showed up.
I guess I got cold feet. I chickened
guess
out.
I didn't do it.
I guess I decided to party instead. It was never like definitive anything. It was just, I guess.
And I was like,
maybe.
All right. Okay. This guy.
Yeah. So, and this guy is employed by Jeff, who was supposed to be the savior, but ended up getting the zoo. And then the other business owner that invested to start this pizza place that sounds like this pizza restaurant that Joe did commercials for, used the meat from the expired meat trucks from Walmart to make said pizzas. Oh my God, it just, so much is going on, and the dogs are just putting their 2 cents in.
Well, I think also, I just love there's a part of me that's like, as being the best of the bottom.
Yes. You can't get any further bottom than this.
Fucking, dude, he's using Walmart fucking expired meat to fucking make these pizzas. I'm just like, get it, Joe. Like, get it, Joe.
I love his justification. Once that comes out of the freezer and somebody decides they don't want to buy it, and they can't put it back. Which, maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe it's not necessarily expired. Either way.
I just like the swindliness of it all.
Yeah.
Like the like, all right, like he sounds like he's been already down on his luck for as long as.
Yeah, because Doc was saying he feeds all his animals fresh meat, and it costs him hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Joe saying, yeah, I pay $10,000,
Joe never, I don't know. The thing with Joe is like, I don't know his intentions. I think they were good. He's the one person where I think, especially with the whole thing at the end, I think they were good.
I think he started with good intentions, and
first of all, drugs.
He became the character he created.
It's interesting because, like, just from the various interviews I've listened to since then, it's just like, there was a drug problem, there wasn't a drug problem. Like, depending on who fucking is answering the questions.
Yeah.
But, I mean, drugs.
Yeah.
Meth.
Do me a favor and let Mallory back in. It might reduce the barking situation. She wants to come back here anyways. Mallory! Come on back. Sorry for further interruptions on this podcast. Has gone way longer than we intended. But deep dives, bro. Deep dives. So.
How did they catch him? Like,
Joe. Yeah, so once supposedly this murder for hire thing was, Jeff and the other businessman started flipping on Joe for all kinds of reasons. And I guess somebody reached out to Carol Baskins saying, if you want dirt on Joe, return this phone call. Because somebody called them, they didn't answer, then they sent a text message. They forward that to the Game and Wildlife Department, the federal Game and Wildlife Department, and they started investigating Joe because of what was said, and they approached the one guy that called them, and he had a bunch of old issues. I guess he had a lemur, and he didn't have proper licensing, so they were basically saying, you're going to go to jail for this, and na. His lawyer advised him to cooperate, supposedly. So I guess the main goal was originally, we'll give this information to drop the lawsuits, or to get money, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I know it was for the Big Cat thing, to drop the pushing the Big Cat Act or whatever. And so that's when all that information started coming out about a murder for hire thing, and the Allen guy talking about, I guess I did this, I guess I did that, but I didn't go down there. And they gave him all the tapes for the murder for hire thing, but the feds were like, well, we have to have proof of exchange of money.
This is the thing who was the guy on the jet ski?
Fat dude that was also an investor. He was a friend of Jeff Lowe's. He was another business investor. He's the one that had the strip clubs and everything else.
Okay, but we're at that point, though.
Yeah, we already talked about him earlier.
Okay.
I don't remember his name because he
barely. You remember the part with him on the jet ski?
That was at the very end. I don't even know why that was included.
Wasn't it the most magnificent thing, though? What that one guy? I don't. Who was he again, though? Like he was an investor.
He was an investor that was a friend of Jeff's, that turned informant, that gave him all the information about the supposed murder for hire thing.
All right, there are two people I'm thinking of. He's kind of like a Meatloaf mixed with the.
He's like Meatloaf meets comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Who is it? Well, I can't predict.
Yeah.
But there's this one guy. I don't know if I'm thinking of John Candy.
He looked more like a Louis Anderson than John Candy.
Maybe that's what.
Hey.
But he looks. I don't know, but they made him the James Bond of the fucking.
Yeah, because I guess supposedly he turned informant for the feds, and then since Allen didn't go through with it, they didn't have enough evidence to prove it was murder for hire. So then they got.
That's almost my favorite part of the fucking thing.
They got an undercover person to come in, and this dude that Joe barely met introduced him, and it was like a $5,000 fee, whatever, but the money never came through. Supposedly Joe said he was going to get some tigers. So I don't know if Joe was buying it or not. He said he had to sell some tigers, and he'll get back to him. He never got back to him. Then things went on for a while, still trying to find where Joe is, because this whole time Joe's on the run. He's not wanting to talk to people. You know, Jeff's taking over the entire zoo. The other guy is, I don't know, informing. And it feels very much like a setup for Joe. I missed the part.
It feels that way, but I'm also.
But at the same time, too, Joe had said all the stuff in these videos that I want Joe's head on the platter. If she,
Yeah, well, he shot those videos of him, like. To me, it's like, I wonder if my thought is like, he already put that out there, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, was he wanting her dead that whole time, or was...
It's just a show.
It's just a show. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where things get messy for me.
Yeah, well,
about my thoughts on that particular thing with Joe Exotic. Because I don't think part of me is like, I don't think he really wanted her dead. Part of me doesn't really think he wanted her dead.
Well, because that whole feud also
fueled and
everything that he was doing, and kept him in the limelight. And honestly, I think his ego took hold over money, over anything else. It was attention is on me, and I love it.
But then I also do think he could have been like, but then all the attention will be on me.
Yeah. Well, and we skipped over one of the parts that Doc Entel really played a part in. Is during this whole thing while Carol's legislating for this act with the exotic animals and everything, Doc Antle goes to Congress ahead of her meeting with him, and he brings all these wild animals and cats.
Oh, do you see all those pictures?
With senators and congressmen all taking pictures with cats. So, and her whole thing is that's abuse of animals, taking pictures with them, so how are the congressmen going to pass a act when they're doing exactly what she's saying is abuse?
Yeah. And nobody's like, which I'm like, I love it because it's like, it's watching a fight that I have no stakes or interest in.
Yeah.
And it's like, these people, I'm watching, she already got her, to me, she's already got the one up because she already tricked everybody into believing her thing is a rescue.
Yeah.
I'm like, so fucking, yeah.
I would consider it at best rescue-ish.
Well, and even the way she described the thing that bugs me the most about her is the way she described it. She's like, basically, cats come here to die.
Yeah.
That's what she said herself. And then she shows all the little things, and I'm like, honey, baby, that's not the way to go. I get it that, like, okay, well, like, you're being like, well, don't buy the cats, we won't fucking have them, and they won't basically come here to die, but at the same time, just basically being like, this is a refuge of death, basically. Yeah. We're going to keep them and then they die. The cages and basically, like, yeah, and then her acting like she's not even a zoo. Okay, cool, but you've already described to me that these animals just come here to die. Yeah. So, at least in a zoo, people are getting to see them. And yeah, still people are getting to see them there, but it's just like your own description of the whole fucking thing is just...
Yeah.
It's just like, what the fuck? And I get it, people, my favorite, it's just like she sticks out the most because she comes off like the most self-righteous.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing, is she really portrays herself as the savior of big cats when she's profiting just as much as anybody else. The only difference
and the fact that she might have killed her, she's the one person where I'm like, you should have never come close to a documentary like this. To me, my whole thing is like, don't do, if you don't know your ducks are in order, don't.
The underlying story is all of them have a big ego. Yeah. And they all need attention.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about it.
They're all searching for love and admiration.
It's different from documentaries because it's not necessarily, I mean, people did get hurt in this documentary, but the whole thing is big cats.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to like, I jump around the atrocities that this man has committed.
Yeah. But even like during the trial for his whole murder for hire thing, which still seems very setup-y. Like, it's hard to say. There's a lot of lines blurred in his motivations and everybody else's around him. I think it was a mutual thing, and he was the easiest way to set up as a fall guy because he screwed himself.
Yeah.
Brett screwed Brett in this situation. Montreal Screwjob brought it back to wrestling.
Alright.
But he really did it with all the videos talking about this needs to be Carol and the blow-up dolls and I want her head on a platter and I hope somebody kills her and just so on and so forth. It did not help his case.
No, not at all, but it's also like, that's easy pickings.
Yeah.
He's just easy picking. So to me, it's like if you were going to set anybody up, hey, look, the evidence has all been created by himself, whatever. Like, if you were going to frame, not necessarily frame, but I don't even know what the fuck. The whole Jeff thing is what
he's
what
just,
throws a wrench, because this man, if you find out this man actually contacted a guy and did whatever, you go, okay, yeah, duh. Obviously he wanted her dead. But Jeff is the like blurred line in between.
Yeah.
Because it's where it's like, okay, well, I don't know if he just wanted all this for himself or just wanted like, because Jeff's a shady dude.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I don't think it's the chicks. He's just a shady dude wearing some fucking...
He has a long rap sheet of his own and has been in and out of courts, and he's got his own, like, nobody in this has clean hands. Yeah. Honestly. Nobody.
But that's what just makes it so is it's just like, oh, these assholes just fucking, and they, like, to me, some of the people who come off looking like just fantastic, dude with no arm.
Yeah.
Or no hand.
And the other dude that had no legs.
He does too.
Because he honestly, like, he even talks about his relationship with the cats, and actually the other dude.
But he still is not like untouched by the stench.
Yeah.
A little bit.
True.
The dude with no arm for sure comes off looking like.
At least, because.
Like, goddamn fucking.
Well, because we'll even get into the next part where not only did did Joe Exotic be going on trial, not only was he getting charged with murder for hire, they started tacking on a bunch of stuff with animal cruelty and just so much other stuff on top of that, because I guess there was some stuff brought up about Doc Antle and tigers going missing and nobody knowing. Same with Joe Exotic, and there was skeletons of tigers and skulls found on his property, and there was a lot of suspicion that once the tigers grew out of the age that they were profitable, they were
either gas chambered or
basically they were killed. Because
Doc Antle was gas chambered because they believed he had a gas chamber on his property, and then Joe shot.
Yeah, but ultimately came down to once they got to a certain age, they kind of broke it down that they become more of a liability because they're more likely to hunt and kill as opposed to be cute and cuddly. And yeah, that actually sounds pretty parallel with other stuff that I've heard, just non-stuff, because that one of the big things with having exotic animals is they get to a certain age.
I don't know how many tigers he killed. Like, what was I think they said was it 5 or something that they said bodies they found? And then
I think so.
I don't know if they tested those, but they were like, yeah, you're killing. I mean, I guess killing tigers because they're in endangered.
Yeah, and he put it as put them to sleep or shoot them. Because even Joe said, just might as well just shoot them and save money on the medications and put them to sleep kind of thing. And I mean,
the whole thing with Joe that makes him, because I don't know, I'm assuming you didn't listen to all the other interviews, but they were like, yeah, he's a piece of shit, basically. Everybody was just like, well, the one thing the producer said is like, this lady brought over a horse, and that's another story that was told in the thing that's everywhere, is, this lady brought over a horse. She was like, he needs to go out to pasture, can't take care of him. He's old, whatever. Will you please take him? Joe was like, yes, I will. As soon as the lady left, shot him in the face and fed it to the tigers.
Yeah. I've heard he's taken in horses as rescues and fed them to the animals. And then...
But, like, I also don't... I don't know. First of all, okay, was he a Zuzu? Like, I guess he had monkeys. Yes.
Yeah,
and alligators.
Yeah.
And
we know the tigers, the lions. He's had some ligers.
Those things, but they're all. Well,
he was wrestling with a python for one of his campaign videos too.
I'm not quite sure, like, the magnitude of how many animals he actually had. How much of it was a zoo, or was it just a tiger?
Well, he mostly had tigers and big cats. It seems to be.
Yeah, like a big
that's
cat.
The main
that's
thing.
What I mean. Like, yeah.
But he had, I don't know, I've heard between 187 to 1,200 different animals. So I guess I'd have to Google and find out the exact amount. It just...
I honestly... I don't know how I feel about... Because animals kill animals. That's just fact.
Yeah.
So the fact that he killed those horses and fed them to the other animals, I'm not necessarily upset, honestly. I think it's bullshit that he acted like he was...
Yeah, I think it's more of the... I'm going to...
But I'm also like, how much did this lady actually know? She brought him to a tiger fucking...
Yeah.
Where his main things were tigers. Did she also know that that animal was going to be... She was like, basically like...
I don't know. I didn't see that interview. Was that on episode 8 or was that a different thing?
It's on episode 8. It's out there. It's just the interview is out there. He's been telling the story to everybody who will listen. So... As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because I do remember him messaging something about people donating horses and...
Yeah. I'm not necessarily too crazy upset about that because it is like
it's more of just the front.
An animal, yeah, the front is crazy, but it's also like the animal actually being sacrificed to feed another animal to me is just circle of life shit.
Yeah.
That sucks that he was... But then also that's great because it's like he made her feel like it was going to be okay. I'm assuming she never came back to check on the animal because, but it's like, that doesn't bug me as much as like just shooting a tiger in the head.
Yeah.
For no reason. Or gassing a tiger just because it aged out of petting.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, because that one girl was talking about Doc Antle where a certain tiger would only listen to her, and then all of a sudden that tiger disappeared, and that's when she decided to leave the refuge.
Like the ego stuff, I can't. Like where it's just clearly these people, like, even with that one moment with Jeff Lowe or whatever, where he's in there with the tiger and with his girlfriend, and the tiger kind of
it was a lion.
Or whatever, bites at him and he's like, get out of here, and he's like,
he gets rough with
it, and then just like, what are you doing?
And then the lion was like, nah, man, I'm a fucking lion.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't fucking die then.
Well, the only reason why he did it is because somebody had that little fire hose and sprayed the cat and it ran away. Because I think if it wasn't for that fire hose...
I was like, he should have been dead.
Yeah.
But that's on him. Like, it's again one of those things where it's like, you got the big thing about it is like you got a lot of people there who probably should not be handling these.
Yeah. Well, and then we even got to the trial of Joe Exotic where pretty much nobody was in his defense. Like pretty much all his employees, the one husband that ran off with the lady, he testified against him. Like a lot of people testified against him. For multiple reasons, you know.
Well, you kind of have to because if he, which I think he was killing animals.
The dirt got on everybody.
Yeah, it's a dirty thing. The whole thing is dirty.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think why I love it to death is because it's like, even with the don't fuck with cats.
Yeah.
You got people on there who I'm just like. I think you're putting too much importance on whatever. All these people, they already came with their, like, self-importance. They were all like, I'm a fucking Tiger King. I'm a fucking, like, and then that was great. And then you just got to see how filthy they all were and how everybody thought either thought they were doing something good or just were dirty fucking fucks, you know? And it was just like, oh, that's why I love it, because it's like, it's not like I'm listening to people suck their own dicks. I am, but at the same time, I'm seeing
all the filth around them too.
Yeah,
because they present themselves.
Because don't fuck with cats. I'm just like, that was obviously a thing somebody was like, trying to make a thing. Fucking Tiger King is just fucking Tiger King. And it's like, these fucking people.
Everybody's crazy in this.
They're all a bunch of nerds, and they're all just like, and they all think they're like gods. And that's what like draws me to it, but also like repels me.
So Joe ends up getting convicted 22 years.
22 years.
But from what it sounds like, he's rolling over on everybody. Because one of the final scenes shows the new husband going through like a storage shed that Joe had and getting documents from all kinds of stuff. Because apparently Joe has dirt on everybody. Which it sounds likely. It sounds like a lot of people intermingle and there's a lot of shady business going on behind everybody in order to make money. And my only question is, there's a lot of celebrities taking pictures with tigers. Professional wrestlers, Shaquille O'Neal.
I say give them a pass, fuck it. They know now.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about that.
I think a lot of celebrities get wrapped up in the, I have money, I'm going to buy a tiger.
Or I'm even going to hang out with a tiger. I've got the money to go down there and go see all that shit. It's just like, average people were doing it.
But I would say the
Nobody
people
knew better.
I would say the people that might have an issue is anybody that's bought these exotic animals on the DL. And I don't know who that is. But I know there's pictures of The Undertaker and Tim Storm. I hope Mark Calloway doesn't go down on this. No, I have a lot of respect for the man.
Well, it's still not illegal to necessarily buy them or own them in certain places.
But it used to be.
But
apparently, you used to be able to buy them in certain pet shops.
But just, my thing is like, I don't even give a shit about the tigers in this. Like, I understand it's about tigers to a certain degree, but it's not about tigers.
Well, yeah, they're dangerous.
I'm just like, all right. We all know deep down nobody should own a goddamn tiger.
Yeah.
That's not even what's in these fucking people. These fucking people. That's all.
I mean, I feel like we should do stuff to save the habitats of tigers and lions and endangered animals.
But all the ones that are here, and also understand all the ones that are here are fucked.
Yeah.
And Carol Baskins was fucking right. You fucking own a tiger and you raise it until it's too big. It can't go back. It can't go back. You might as well just fucking butcher it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, she had points, but at the same time.
Piece of shit.
Yeah.
She's my favorite thing about all of this is how much everybody's like, well, I looked like a piece of shit, and I'm like, well, why'd you say that?
Like, everybody was using each other for their own good. Down to the producer, everybody was looking out for their own gain. Mm-hmm. Everybody. Joe was feeding his ego. Doc Antle was building his harem. You know, Carol Baskins was building her bank account. You know, everybody had their own. Tigers were kind of the ancillary characters to feed these other people's motives. Mm-hmm. Jeff Lowe was about greed and ego. I mean, honestly, ego came involved with all of them because all of them.
He just wanted to own fucking
the cameras and spotlights. He had Ferraris. Yeah. He was renting a mansion. Everything was about trying to portray a larger than life character. And then I guess he's got one of his friends building that zoo. Like, there was this whole thing at the end talking about his friends out there doing all this work for minimal. I don't know if that thing ever opened. And then Doc Antle apparently got raided at the end of all this because Joe's just like, I guess Joe's in there just dropping info. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens as things progress.
I don't honestly want a second Tiger King. As much as I just, once I saw the 8th episode, with Joe McHale and everything. And it's just an interview. I was like, I don't even care at this point. Because it's just like, I think we're done. Yeah. I think we're done. Like, if Joe's in jail, he is the main, like, source of, like,
Unless
the fuck?
Unless from him rolling over on everybody brings out more stuff.
But even then, like, what more can you bring out?
Well, because you even got the drug dealer that was barely mentioned in there.
Tell me, Carol. Yeah, but who cares?
You know,
drug deals happen every day.
True. And then,
Get out of my face.
And then who knows? Maybe they'll discover something about Carol's husband that disappeared. I don't know.
If Carol's not going to be a part of it, which God knows she ain't, she's done. Which, good girl, good. Learn from your fucking mistakes. It made me laugh when she was just like, well, I didn't know I was going to be portrayed that way and everything.
Well, she was so flippant.
Honey, your husband's missing. And you should have never been a part of this just from that alone. How did you think that was never going to come up? With the fact that you own a whole bunch of fucking... That's what I love about all this is everybody thought they were going to come off great. Yeah. Especially Doc Antle, him directing it himself. Yeah. He thought that there's no way they're going to use me fucking directing them, trying to direct me. Like, to me, the whole thing is just like, you fucking self-important pieces of shit.
Well, and then Carol came off so flippant when they asked about what happened to her husband.
Yeah. The thing is, I can understand, but I'm also like, but you also understand that this is like, time has passed, I get it. Yeah. Especially if it was hard on her, you're going to get a little bit frigid about things, but also, this is a documentary. Yeah. At least pretend. At least pretend, bitch. Yeah. And the fact that she thought she totally was gonna... She thought she was gonna come off looking like
as the savior. Hero.
That's what makes her look like the biggest piece of shit. Is because she went in there being like, they ain't shit they can do to me, and then all of a sudden it's just like
her husband went missing,
and then just it's just like all of them. To me it's just amazing just to watch all these people, and then you see on Google like this is bullshit. I did blah 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 blah, and then defending themselves. I'm like, honey, never be a part of a documentary if you don't have skeletons in your closet.
Yeah, if you got skeletons,
never. And guess what? We're all gonna see it. And guess what? You look like a goddamn murderer, and that's it. You did that though.
Maybe she is. Maybe she isn't. But I don't know.
To me, it's just like, that's what I love about it. It's just like these people thought they were going to come off
scot-free.
Amazing.
Clean.
I'm going to take your money. I'm going to tell my story, and everybody's going to believe that I'm the fucking hero. And then when you find out that they're like, oh my God, no, that's not what I want. Like, that's not, I'm just like,
All right. So let's wrap it up. Give our final thoughts on just overall. We both agree that we're pretty... It feels very... Carol killed her first husband. The jury's out on whether Joe Exotic really conspired to have her killed. Because I do feel like she was an important part of his own narrative.
Well, that's one thing I was going to ask you too, is like, he got 22 years.
Yes.
Do you think that's right on par, or do you think he should have got less, more time? What do you think?
I don't know. It kind of depends on if he really was the one. Because he kind of became the poster boy for the shitbags. Mm. And...
I don't know. But were most of those years from the killing of the tigers, or was it for the Carol Baskins?
You know what? I don't know.
I don't think they discussed. Together. Yeah, I don't think they discussed what number of what was what.
I feel like he probably deserves jail time for stuff. I'm just not sure how much.
Like, because he's like 50-something. He'll probably die there.
Oh yeah, he's.
Do you think he deserves to die in jail? I guess.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like he started off with a good heart and basically became the character he created and became obsessed with it. And he corrupted himself with his own ego, and whether or not his goal was to actually kill her, because I mean, if he legitimately was trying to kill her, okay, that's still sorry.
How
bro.
many years for that? For trying to kill somebody but not killing anybody.
Yeah.
How many years do you think? I don't know what the rules are. I'm just.
Well, we're getting into like really deep seated ideologies with it, but I do feel like he should probably serve at least 10 years. Because there's a lot of stuff.
But that for just Carol Baskins?
Just for Carol Baskins, if he indeed was solely responsible for the murder for hire thing, I'd say 10 years. Because he didn't quite even get close to it. Like, if it was like a closer attempted burner, like maybe he actually shot her, something, yeah, 22 years definitely. But, something didn't go through. But the fact that there's so much gray area in there, but for just hiring somebody.
But just for Carol.
I would say 10.
All right.
And
Tiger stuff?
At least 5.
All right.
Because I'm sorry, there's a hierarchy between human life and animal life. I'm sorry, it's true.
I agree.
So I'd say at least 15 years, max. Unless there's some other stuff going on besides that, And then I really feel like Jeff Lowe should not be getting off scot-free. Because I feel like he played a bigger role in it than he's letting on. Because there's a lot of stuff that I'm pretty sure he was definitely more involved than he really let himself.
I just felt there's between Jeff and that other guy.
I think Jeff.
They both got too much of
Jeff
faces when they talk.
I feel like Jeff should be at least getting 10 years.
Like on they all talk like this. And, like I got away with some shit.
And Alan should be at least getting 5. For attempted murder.
Oh, I guess I just didn't get there.
Yeah. Carol Baskins, she probably needs to do life in prison for her disappearance of her husband, because I don't know. I don't have the evidence, but
if she didn't, that's horrible. That's the thing. That's just like
if she didn't, and maybe he faked his death and really did escape with, but the fact that all his money's gone, like if there was at least like a few million that just kind of was not there. Of course, we don't know how much money he really had.
As far as I'm concerned, this is what you have to assume. You either have to assume that like he left all of his money,
he faked his death, yeah,
and just fucking left, or he either had money, extra money,
and she wanted it.
And well, like, because to me it's like, all right, if we're thinking he's even gonna leave,
yeah,
is he gonna leave and leave her all the money? No. We then have to assume that he had money gathered.
If he had 20 million and he left her 10 and took 10 for himself and said, "Hey."
But the whole thing with 2, I don't know if we talked about, is the fact that like Carol Baskins locked that one girl out of the office.
Yeah.
And then the will.
Yeah, and
also
the will
came
said
up
with upon my death or my disappearance.
Or my disappearance.
That's a weird thing.
And it's like, okay, cool. But then at the end of the day, it's like, then why didn't he just divorce her?
Well,
because if the whole thing was
that's
the
the
money
thing
is he should have just divorced her.
Well, what it sounds like, he didn't get that chance.
Exactly. But I'm saying, if you're gonna just fake your disappearance and leave all your money to some chick, might as well just divorced her and left.
Unless there's some additional skeletons that were not rebuilt.
I mean, I don't know. But all I know is Carol Baskins, you took a wrong turn by thinking you could fucking be a part of a documentary at all. Because I'm like, you have a fucking missing husband? Don't. To me, it's like, just think. Just think, people. All right? If you got anything shady going on in your life, don't be
part of a documentary.
Don't do anything.
Just, if somebody asks you, Be like, oh, I'm okay.
Don't be.
Walk away.
If you got some shit that's really gonna fuck you up when it comes out, don't do television. Don't do fucking YouTube. Don't do fucking.
Don't draw attention to yourself.
Yes, don't draw attention to yourself, and I think that's what I love about this is all these people wanted more and more attention when they didn't realize that the shit they were doing was shady. Yeah. And that's why it's my favorite.
Definitely.
Because I love to also hear the Google things of them being like, they made me look bad. I'm like, honey, no.
You made yourself
I heard what you said, and I know what's going on with you, so just don't.
So the moral of this podcast that went way longer than we intended to is, if you're going to be bottom class, don't be slimy. And if you are slimy and bottom class, don't promote it. Keep it to yourself. Stay low key. And don't murder your husbands and feed them to tigers.
Allegedly. Actually do, because she's fine.
She did get allegedly.
So if you are going to murder your husband, tigers.
Allegedly. So, this has been Best of the Bottom. Bottom class people drinking bottom shelf booze. Once again, you can find us right here on Perico Productions. Watch our podcast or listen to us on Podbean or Apple Podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe, join the family. Bottoms up. We love you guys. Join us. Actually, I can't say Jonas. That's somebody else's thing. Join our family. That's our.
Get over here.
Come on.
Get over here.
Come on. Tastes pretty good.
Reginald here, and if you like that, you'll like the videos appearing before you now.